When it came time to make a decision, I knew what I wanted. I declared a major in accounting the semester before and had plenty of room to add more to my schedule. I scrolled through the list of minors and settled on it. Of course, we have a state-of-the-art technology center, and this could be a hands-on approach to learn a new skill during college. I decided to minor in wood technology. As you can imagine, I immediately began fielding questions.
Accounting and what? Wood technology. Is that like carpentry? What are you going to do with that?
The truth is, I had absolutely no idea. I knew I wanted to study accounting because it's the language of business. I was motivated to learn the transactional makeup of the world, but I saw woodworking as an insight into the physical makeup of the world. At Pittsburgh State University, we pay flat-rate tuition, so I was able to take additional classes with no additional cost. This opened an entirely new world to me. I started understanding that some tables were made of solid wood, some were made of a laminate on top of a cheaper interior core. I started getting under people's coffee tables to see how they were put together. Even this TEDx sign on our stage is made of wood. Kelson Clausen, one of my classmates, made the whole display on his own. Before I started studying woodworking, I would have assumed that woodworkers were just old men in garages or high school shop teachers. Contrary to my assumptions, there were businesses of all sizes in this industry. If you look around the Bicknell Center and performing halls here, you'll see curved ceilings, you'll see handrails, acoustic walls, you'll see wall panels outside in the rest of the center. All of these are thanks to a wood technology company. These companies do projects such as casinos, high schools, corporate headquarters, they'll do hospitals, they can do yachts and things I'd never imagined. And do you know what all these companies need? Accountants. Having an accountant with custom manufacturing background is incredibly rare. And even with minor experience, pursuing an education with technology opened my job pool immensely.
My jump came a few years earlier. For as long as I can remember, I have loved, well, absolutely everything. I knew that I loved to write, so first came a major in technical writing. But I also knew that I loved creativity, innovation, and technology. So then came a major in graphics and imaging technology, and then a minor in innovation engineering after that. When people began asking me how I was planning to use these degrees, the answer always seemed to create more questions.
You're studying all that and you want to go to law school?
That answer seemed to baffle almost everyone, except for law school admissions officers who loved my diverse educational background. Because of Pittsburgh State University's flat-rate tuition, I was able to take classes in every area that interested me: philosophy, Spanish, music, science, art, and more. With each new discipline, the world around me became a little easier to understand. I learned a lot of new skills, but more importantly, I learned something far more better than marketability. I learned how to connect with people of diverse backgrounds and be a better overall problem solver. Hank and I had very different perspectives coming to college, and no one views it quite the same. For many people, college is seen as a time where you can narrow your perspectives or narrow your interests. However, sometimes it can feel like you have very many options, but once you decide on a pathway, it can feel like your options have become instantly narrowed.
Before you come to college, you have a more hopeful perspective.
I can't wait to go to college. I'm going to learn the secrets of the universe, go on adventures every day, and then make millions.
Once you're there, however, your perspective starts to change. How many times have you heard a college student say,
I'm a super, ultra, mega senior. I have learned nothing. Jobs are a mythical construct. The debt is crippling. And how many times have you heard a professor or other equally smug adults say,
just wait until you get into the real world and see what real work is like?
But isn't that the point? Isn't college supposed to prepare you for the real world? Yet so many times it feels like we struggle to utilize the college experience to its fullest. That's why we're here to tell you about the enormous benefits of interdisciplinary study.
Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you need to pick up 8 additional degrees. It's simply the idea of branching out beyond your field into another field and combining the two. These are seen in connections such as music and engineering, art and biology, manufacturing and accounting. The gaps between these fields are not so far apart as you might think.
When you take off your blinders and look beyond the straight and narrow path that you've set ahead for yourself, you'll be amazed at the hundreds of roads that lead to the same destination in your sights. Whether you're a member of the community, in the workforce, a stay-at-home parent, a professor or a student, or just wanting to become a more well-rounded person, interdisciplinary studies will help you become a better problem solver and overall better member of your community. What's more, one of the coolest properties of learning a new discipline is already wired in you. We are all gifted with a superpower, the reticular activating system. The RAS is a web of nerve cells and connections in the brainstem that sifts through the information, the large amount of input that you get every day. It deems what is important based on what you give it, and it brings that information to your attention. Once Hank began studying woodworking, his brain tuned him into that and opened up an entire new world in the form of ideas that were in front of him all along. Once your brain extends into that new realm, it will never go back to its original form of stifled thinking. And now, general objects like chairs, tables, and desks were suddenly objects of study and fodder for business opportunity.
Take, for example, this image. Many of you have seen it before, but for those of you who haven't, what do you see? What does the person next to you see? It represents both a duck and a rabbit. When you see it the first time, your mind latches onto one perspective and limits your thinking. Once you're able to see both perspectives of it, however, your brain is able to toggle between the two images, and it broadens your ability to problem solve. This is a huge benefit of interdisciplinary study. An example of this is Dr. Temple Grandin, one of the greatest influencers on animal welfare the livestock industry has ever seen. Grandin imitated cows' behavior to study them. She would follow them through stockyards, mimicking their motions. She observed their movements and discovered that when cows were guided in a circular motion, it was in line with their natural instincts. This helped them to not see ahead and panic. This is something her counterparts never would have noticed. The way that she marketed her ideas, though, was through her drawings.
You see, Dr. Grandin does not think in terms of verbal language. She is very open about her diagnosis on the autistic spectrum and thinks instead of terms of pictures. Her drawings conveyed ideas that words simply couldn't. Without her background in art, her ideas would have been nearly impossible to explain and would have lost their impact. And without this combination of fields, art, biology, animal science, manufacturing, these concepts would have never seen life. And this is where educators are missing a massive opportunity for impactful engagement of students. How many classes have you sat in with droning lectures, PowerPoint slides, and page after page of notes? This method works well for some students, but what about autistic minds like Grandin's that think instead in terms of pictures? What about the pattern-based minds, the abstract thinkers? A strictly verbal-based teaching method excludes a huge portion of students with diverse and brilliant minds that could greatly benefit from teaching that incorporates all different styles.
Tisha Marshik, a fellow TEDx speaker, used her talk to discuss the myth of learning styles compared to engaging students. We've all heard of learning styles. You've heard of visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. But Marshik asked the question, what if you're a visual learner, but you need to learn what a bird sounds like? This may question learning styles to simply be preferences. Similarly, in the book, Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning, Peter Brown, Henry Roediger, and Mark McDaniel look at common teaching methods and studying styles and look at them as ineffective compared to less glamorous methods, such as testing yourself or adding other areas of interest into your practice for long-term retention. When engaged is when people learn, when there's meaning behind what they are studying. What if you understood several areas? Would it help you learn better? If you had meaning behind what you're learning, would you retain it longer?
When engaging yourself by connecting multiple fields with your own, you are able to apply your primary skills to real-life situations. An excellent example of this is imagining if you're a fisherman or a hunter. Fisherman or hunter, as one of those, you understand anatomy and physiology. You understand casting, aiming, and maintaining your equipment. But you also understand chemistry. Weather is not just blips on a radar. Why? Because it has meaning. Temperature, the moon phases, sunrise, sunset, time of year, snow, wind velocity, these all affect the success of an outing. Fishermen learn these things by reading, seeing, hearing, and doing, but it is the meaning of their craft, fishing and hunting, that retains this information over time.
This year I signed up for a camping class. It was a non-required elective, but I knew I'd enjoy it. And I do, but not only for the reasons I was expecting. I expected a class like camping to be a fun way to break the monotony of my traditional classes, maybe relieve some stress and learn some hands-on skill building. But it's been so much more. Dr. Gorman, my camping professor, has incorporated fun and memorable activities into our class to teach people how to build trust, communicate and collaborate, and have fun with the people around you. One day, Dr. Gorman came in, picked up a series of colored balls, set them in front of us, and after a quick demonstration said,
"Go juggle."
Now, students at first struggled with this who had never done it before, and noticing this, Dr. Gorman approached them.
Try tossing one ball from one hand to the other. Now, toss the ball, and as it hits its peak, throw the other one. Great.
Now I'd learned how to juggle several years before, so it was pretty easy for me to get started. I was going through the motions when Dr. Gorman said,
Great, but can you do any other patterns?
"Other patterns?"
You're going underhand. Try going overhand.
And with that caveat, the challenge was back on. I was instantly re-engaged in trying to learn this new method.
Think of the balls as different fields of study, and think of the juggling itself as the way that we process information. Some people may have a grasp on one field. Others may have a grasp on two fields, but not be able to make connections between them. Still others may have connections between their multiple fields and understand them all in one way, but have never considered processing that information differently.
Dr. Gorman forced me to look at something I thought I understood in an entirely different light. This is similar to interdisciplinary study. It builds connections, strengthens the mind, and can be adjusted to meet students where they are. Combining disciplines is a reflection of the real world. Life is not segmented into different boxes for different fields. It is broad and colorful and varies widely in subject matter and methodology. It's a reflection of the world around us, and diverse thinking attracts diverse crowds.
When exposing ourselves to ideological diversity, we are able to see the different ways of problem solving and how many methodologies can be useful. This helps to break down preconceived notions and create an overall more inclusive environment.
And when students see the different ways their classmates are thinking, it helps them see that there's no right way of doing something. This goes far beyond pure academia. In 1984, Eliyahu Goldratt wrote The Goal. It's different from most business books in that it's a novel, and it's a great example of an author combining disciplines. The story goes through the life of a struggling plant manager in America. The person who brings about the positive change of his plant is not some expert American manufacturing consultant. It is an Israeli physicist who started with a simple hypothesis. His scientific approach was able to help him see into the false paradigms American manufacturers had, the largest of which was not focusing on the plant's goal, making money. The story uses a meaningful story and unlikely characters to engage manufacturers in America and help them to learn effective mental models.
No matter what your perspective or position is, pursuing interdisciplinary studies will benefit you tremendously and help you become more useful to the community around you.
What will you discover? Will your understanding of waste management and Chinese culture be what solves future recycling surpluses?
Will your child's understanding of comedy and psychology be what stops bullying in their school?
Will your organizations grow because of your understanding of animal populations, your organization's strengths, and personal finance?
Will the person on your legal team's understanding of emojis be what cracks their legal case? No matter how outlandish the combination of fields might seem, don't stop pursuing them.
You never know when your connections will pay dividends or come in handy.
Thank you.
Thank you.